Hey folks, BlackCross here, and yeah, as you can probably tell, we're already hearing it now as we speak. And yes, I'm a little bit late on this news, of course. I've always been late on news, but I decided to go ahead and try to release this as soon as possible, so naturally this is going to come out the day after everyone finds out about this. But we're talking about the PlayStation 5 event that just happened, according to me, a couple hours ago, for you, yesterday. And I want to go ahead and talk about it a little bit, you know, what I've thought about the event and everything like that, about the price, the release date, so on and so forth, and what I thought about so far, and has my thoughts about it changed, and what I think about it going forward. If it sounds like I just had got up, I literally have. I literally just had. So the first bit of news that I want to go ahead and talk about is the fact that Final Fantasy 16 is real. Yeah, the rumor of Final Fantasy 16, everything that we was hearing so far of rumor and what it was going to be and what it would look like and stuff like that. Well, needless to say, there's a lot I gotta say about it, but the first of all that I gotta point out is this. I am so glad it's not going the route that we thought it was going to look. You know, from the earlier trailer that everyone thought was Final Fantasy 16 to Project Athia, you know, I'm glad that it's going the direction that it is going. You know, it means that instead of going like a mixture of some kind of futuristic and stuff like that, this is more fantasy-based style, which is great because, hey, it's going to be Final Fantasy like how it should be. But what do I think about it? I have some problems already. The first problem is, I was looking at it, and remember how I told you that video games have a graphical style to them? You know, remember how I was saying that Final Fantasy has a style look to it? Well, it still has Final Fantasy, yet it looks like Final Fantasy 14. Yeah, it looks like Final Fantasy 14. Now, it threw me off so badly. But I thought to myself, I was like, is this gonna be single player or is this a multiplayer? Because when I first saw the image that people were leaking on Twitter and stuff, I was like, is Final Fantasy 14 getting another update again? Like, again? No, this is actually Final Fantasy 16. And I was like, okay, I'm just a little bit on the confused side. But from what it looks like, and keep in mind, this is just an early trailer. For all we know, there could be some changes as we go forward from here. But from what I was looking at it, it looks mostly all humans. You know, there's no other fantasy creatures or whatever. There's no elves, no dwarves. There's no, whatever creature Final Fantasy 14 has. I think there's like 5 different races aside from humans. I don't know. But aside from that, it looks like Final Fantasy 14, so my mind was literally replaying this over and over again. It was like, please let it be single player, please let it be single player, please let it be single player. And I'm like, hopefully it is single player. Hopefully this is a single player game and not a MMORPG with a story based on it. And it's like, I hope it's just a regular single player Final Fantasy game. I'm really hoping this. But aside from that, though, graphical style wise, I do like how it looks. Don't get me wrong, I do like how it looks. It literally is keeping up with the fantasy style base, and that's great. You know, that is really good to know that Final Fantasy is still going to be Final Fantasy. It's, I mean, for like the past couple of installments, it's kept up with futuristics to some degree, you know. Yes, we had Final Fantasy 14, which kind of was Final Fantasy, but keep in mind, it's an MMORPG, not a single player. And so aside from that, we had Final Fantasy 13 and then Final Fantasy 15, which was both futuristic, fantasy futuristic, but futuristic nonetheless, and then modern look. If you get what I'm saying, it looks weird, but it still had the Final Fantasy charm that we all know. Whereas this one, this is literally basically medieval Final Fantasy, like how Final Fantasy 9 looked it, how the previous Final Fantasy entries, like 1, 2, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. Gameplay wise though, oh boy. remember how we were talking about the director, the same guy who worked it on games like Devil May Cry 5, was being put into Square Enix as being as a director of the battle mechanic? I think there's definitely a huge impact that he's definitely working on this. Like, there's a huge impact, okay? His signature is clearly there. And if it plays anything how it looks, I'm kind of excited about it. I literally am. You know, obviously it is completely 100% action-based RPG mechanics. But I have to say, after looking at it, I'm pretty stoked for it. This looks really fun. This looks really entertaining. And I have to say, it looks way better than 15. You know, there was a point during the battles that they showed off where it looks like he warp dashed into an enemy or something like that. And that felt like a warp, but a much better warp, if you will. I personally actually kind of like how this looks. This, again, if the gameplay looks it feels anything like how it looks and stuff, I'm already impressed with this, you know. Obviously, yes, it's not turn-based, well, no offense. Final Fantasy hasn't been in turn-based for a while now, since 15 has come out. So really, at this rate, to see turn-based ever return again, I don't think that's going to happen for the Final Fantasy franchise, unless we get another, like, sequel or prequel to any previous entry, perhaps. But aside from that, though, Final Fantasy 16, gameplay-wise, I'm pretty excited for it, especially considering how good it looks. I'm confused by the story concept, though. I am so confused. I'm not even going to try to break it apart, because believe me whenever I say this, the only thing I got in terms of story was the fact that you have Shiva versus Titan, and they're waging war against each other, I guess. The regular human race is either trying to stop them or whatever. And then you have this kid who, for some reason, transforms into Phoenix. And then, if that's not the only case, there's some other guy that turns into Infront. Now, while they all look amazing, that's confusing. I'm confused beyond belief. I'm like, what just happened? What? You know? It's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. As far as I know, something's going on. And I'm sure I'm not going to find out any details until the game comes out. Which, for those of you that are wondering, there is no set release date for this game. However, the development team did say that they're hoping to get this out as soon as possible. But, of course, we don't have any details as to a release date as of right now. So, as far as we know, this could either be a late 2021, which I doubt that, or it could be in 2022, which I feel like that's probably more or less going to happen. Hopefully it's not going to be like 5 or 10 years from now. Hopefully that's not the case. I hope that's not the case, because that would be ridiculous. That would be stupid. But either way, I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy 16. Confused as I'll get at, but I'm looking forward to it. The next game that they revealed was Hogwarts Legacy. And here's the thing, I'm not a major fan of Harry Potter myself. I would label Harry Potter as like my 5th favorite movie series, I suppose you could say. It's not my top tier favorite, unlike Pirates of the Caribbean, Star Wars, Marvel, so on and so forth. It's not my absolute favorite film series. I do love, however, the first one. First one is nostalgic for me, of course, for obvious reasons. And then, of course, I do love Fantastic Beasts. You know, those are actually really good movies. I have yet to see the second one, though, but I do like it regardless. This one, however, though, looks like, according from what I'm reading, it looks like a prequel to the Harry Potter series, you know, so something tells me we may very well get a close glimpse into Voldemort's past life before he took the path of darkness or whatever. I imagine that's what's going to happen, you know, we're going to be in that time frame. I may be completely wrong, I'm not sure, and I don't remember really. I don't remember what time frame Voldemort was even alive, technically, before he got rebirthed or resurrected. Whatever happened in the 4th one, but regardless, I get the feeling we're going to see something happen in that regard. But this looks amazing. This game absolutely blew me away. I was like literally thinking to myself, this is literally a next generation Harry Potter game, and I cannot believe I'm actually saying those words. a next-generation Harry Potter game. Or in this case, Wizarding World, you know, because the Fantastic Beasts series is not called Harry Potter and the Fantastic Beasts. It's called the Wizarding World now. So it's like, you know, obviously Harry Potter is its own series, and then you got Fantastic Beasts, and now you got this, you know. I don't know the full details. As far as I know, it sounds like you have a set character. As to who he is, I'm not sure at the moment. I'm sure we'll get more details as it gets ready to come out. It's due 2021. As to a specific date, not right now, but it's in 2021. So, hopefully we'll get more details later on. But that game definitely looks interesting to me, in my personal opinion. Now, of course, unfortunately, we do have the God of War Ragnarok. Now, I say unfortunately because I have yet to play the PS4 one at the moment. I still need to play that, so I'm way behind when it comes to God of War. But it is interesting to know that we are going to get another God of War story. Obviously, it's going to continue on after the previous God of War. As to the story, I have no idea. Obviously, it involves Ragnarok. Keep in mind, this is Norse mythology, so whatever Ragnarok was during those story times, I have no flippin' clue. I was never taught how Norse mythology was. I was only taught, like, Egyptian times, Greek times. Norse mythology, I was completely lost on. No one's ever brushed it off, yet everyone is practically losing their minds due to Norse mythology. And it's like, I have no idea about Norse mythology. I have no idea about Norse mythology. But as soon as I play God of War, which I do need to make that into my list of games to play for 2021, I do plan to play it, and whenever I do, I will more than likely be like everybody else, and I will be excited for Ragnarok. I'm only going to talk about Ragnarok because of the fact that, number one, it was mentioned. Number two, there was nothing else. They didn't show anything except for a little thing being twirled around with symbols and stuff, and basically you hear Kratos talking in the background. That's all it is. So, whatever it's going to be, I imagine it's going to play the same way that the other one was. Can't say the first one, because technically the first one was God of War for PS2. This is God of War for PS4. It's confusing for my head. Can we just call it God of War Norse Mythology, or God of Norse Mythology, or whatever we can call it at this rate? I don't care what we call it. I'm just confused. Now, technically, they revealed this announcement previously, but Demon's Souls Remake. Oh my gosh. Okay? If I was excited to see the Demon's Souls Remake was actually a thing that was going to happen for the PS5, I had already lost my mind before. Looking at the gameplay, though, what they showed off during that demonstration, the gameplay, holy cow. I cannot believe it, okay? The entire time I was watching the event, I was pretty excited for a couple things, you know. Keep in mind, my excitement for the PS5 was not really high tier, you know. My excitement for PS5 was like, okay, cool, we are actually going to the next generation. Yeah, the games look great and stuff like that, but nothing really piqued my interest at the moment. And then they showed off, like, Demon's Souls Remake, and I'm like, that's actually happening! And I just lost my mind on that part, you know. Now here's the thing, like I mentioned in my previous videos, whenever I played Demon's Souls, I absolutely hated it because of how difficult it was. Then Dark Souls came out, and I couldn't believe that people would actually lose their sanity over difficulty settings for Dark Souls. Then Dark Souls 2 came out, and I was like, okay, something's up. So whenever I picked up Dark Souls, I was like, okay, let's just see how this is, and I fell in love with it since then. And then, of course, I fell in love with Bloodborne, and so on and so forth. And to go back into Demon's Souls for the PS3, I felt kind of bad because I had played better versions of what Demon's Souls was, and then going back to Demon's Souls, it has aged terribly, okay? I'll be the one to tell you right now, Demon's Souls has aged so badly, it hurts. It hurts just to go back through and realize that the gameplay is just so limited. It is literally Dark Souls Beta. Dark Souls Alpha. That's what it was, Dark Souls Alpha. It's rough in terms of graphically, it's rough in terms of gameplay. Keep in mind, this came out for the PlayStation 3, so really, it hurts just to look at it. But then to see this remake. Graphically, it looks great. You know, they've been teasing images and stuff like that, and while some people may not like these details, I welcome them, okay? Keep in mind, this is what Demon's Souls looked like before. I don't know what was going on in the developers' heads whenever they thought to put this haze look to it, because it looked so hazy and so blurry that it was disgusting kind of looking at it now when you think about it. But then you look at today's design for Demon's Souls and it's like... mind blown. But then you show off the gameplay, folks. I have never been more hyped up for Demon's Souls, or much less a Dark Souls type game for that matter, until that gameplay trailer. Oh my gosh, does it look so amazing. I have never felt so fangasm over a Souls game till now, and Demon's Souls Remake is looking beautiful. Seriously, every detail, every little speck of grass, dirt, crack, crevice, whatever. But then the gameplay, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm hoping the gameplay stays the way it looks right now, because this blows Dark Souls and Bloodborne out of the park. Seriously, the way that it looks and the way that it feels, oh my gosh, it's going to be a blast and a blessing to play, you know? I mean, it looks so well made, too. It's not just a remake, it's a reimagining, practically. That's what it feels like. It's a reimagining of what Demon's Souls once was, you know? Gameplay-wise, it's completely different. Graphically, it has been improved. I'm just looking forward to just touching it, really. Yes, I'm gonna die millions of times, but I'm gonna love it regardless. You know, that's gonna be something to say. It's sort of like the Cuphead event where I've been playing through it and I've been dying a lot, but I still love it because of how it looks with this cartoony stylized that it keeps. In Demon's Souls' case, graphically it just looks beautiful, and gameplay, it looks so fluid. It's like a real live event type thing. It just blows me away. I'm looking forward to Demon's Souls. This is something to be excited for, really. And then, of course, they also showed off, surprisingly, their PlayStation Plus membership. I don't know why they did that, but after hearing people talk about it and reading about it a little bit, because I was still confused about the whole demonstration thing, except for like one key thing, which we'll get to in just a sec, but the PlayStation Plus membership thing I was confused on up until people were talking about it. And that was the fact that apparently Sony's trying to do what Microsoft is doing with their Game Pass, and in Sony's case, if it's an exclusive title that Sony owns, and it was on the PlayStation 4, you will be able to download it for free so long as you have the PlayStation Plus membership. That is actually a really good move on Sony's end. That will actually help out for a lot of people, especially depending on how the store layout is. Because if it does a whole reset thing again, that would get a lot of people pissed off even more so, which, no offense, every company has done that so far. Every single time there's a reset in the system, you have to rebuy the games and stuff like that. I was actually hoping that the games that you had previously on the PS4, you can just transfer them to the PS5 without having to repurchase them. And if you had it digitally, it would make sense. It would not be that hard. But for some reason, they don't do that. Hopefully that's the case for this one. There hasn't been a clear clarification for it, but to know that if you have a PlayStation Plus membership, and there are certain exclusive titles that Sony has, and you can download them for free, that's great news to have, really. That's actually the best news, really, when you think about it all. But that brings up the question about backwards compatibility, and I actually decided to look into it a little bit further, and I'm glad I did, because apparently Sony had made an update about this. And that is, Sony wants all 4,000 plus games to be backwards compatible that was on the PS4 to be on the PS5. What I mean is, obviously, games that you had on the PS4 physically, you can play them on the PS5. Sony wants all of them to be backwards compatible. In other words, they wanted to be fully backwards compatible. The only reason why they couldn't was because literally what they said was that it was up to the developer if they wanted it to be put on the PS5. Which at first glance makes no sense. Right? What would stop a company from having any previous title to be put onto the PS5? But it wasn't until you got to hear clarification, and it's sort of the same way that Microsoft had, which kind of makes sense, but it's like, it doesn't really matter, right? Why would it matter if you're just wanting to play the game onto the previous system? Here's why it makes sense, because Sony basically stated that if the developer wanted to, they would have to re-dev the game. What I mean by re-dev, I mean like, obviously upgrade it. You know, obviously upgrade to where the Ryzen can outperform it, it will play smoother, and so on and so forth. And, you know, they want every game to do this, you know? Obviously it makes sense that they would want that to be the case, but of course it depends on the developer. Which means the developer, it would have to be up to the developer to decide if the player gets to have the upgradability, or if they have to repay it again. Which would be stupid, in my personal opinion. Hopefully that's not a problem. Hopefully you can just play them as is and not have to worry about having to upgrade it. But it makes sense because depending on the game, depends on the outweigh performance. So imagine Bloodborne, which came out for the PS4 when it first came out, and then to be put onto the PS5 and enhanced form, it's going to look pretty good actually. While it's not drastically majorly different, it's definitely going to improve in some form of way. Obviously with load times and stuff of that nature. And hopefully we'll get to see more PS4 titles being put onto the PS5 for backwards compatibility. Hopefully that's the case. And from the way it looks, it sounds like it will be backwards compatible for some time. But it sounds like they're going to go even deeper with the backwards compatibility, hopefully looking forward in the PS5's future. Now what do I mean whenever I say that Sony is looking to have more backwards compatibility for the PS5's future? Well, apparently according to one, I suppose you could say tech enthusiast, or even for that matter, a game reviewer or whatever, he said that he was reading that apparently Sony had put out a patent of some kind. I had heard about this, but really it didn't pique my interest at the moment, because really, this could be anything. Really, it would make no sense for them to talk about a patent when really it serves no purpose whatsoever for us gamers. So it's like, why would we even remotely care about what a patent has to do? That wasn't until I was hearing what he had to say about it, because apparently Sony is planning on doing some kind of weird, the way he describes it is like a new ecosystem of some kind. The only thing I got out of it is that they're doing something drastically different in terms of backwards compatibility for PS1, PS2, and PS3 titles. Now, hopefully one of two things is going to happen. One, every PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 games will be virtually available to download from the store. Every game. Which would be an amazing feat to see, okay? Just to have the option to download any game from PS1, 2s, and 3 lineup of games, and to download it onto the PS5, that would be amazing. Yes, record, you would have to rebuy it, but so long as it's priced reasonably, like $19.99 depending, maybe $7.99 accordingly, should they be priced accordingly and fairly, I think most of us would jump on it. I think we would. I mean, think about it. To have the option to download games like Robotic Atomic Drive, rad, or for that matter, Blood Would Tell, to have that option, that would be mind-blowing. I would lose my absolute flippin' mind to know that, hey, I don't have to worry about having a system age or whatever, because I can download these games onto my new system. That'd be awesome. Or, according to what one person theorized, maybe Sony is going to be taking the same approach that Microsoft had with their Xbox games that they did for Xbox One, where if you had the disc, you just insert it into the system, it downloads the game from its backlog library cloud, downloads it, and so basically, so long as you have the disc, it acts like a digital key card that you can put in there and you can just play the game. Hopefully that's what's going to happen, and which means that we won't have to repay for the game. Hopefully it's that, but personally I would be fine either way. In my personal opinion, I'd be fine either way, so long as we get to play our favorite titles again, you know? This is just a rumor right now. This isn't 100% confirmed in terms of the PS5 specs, but if this ends up being the case, Sony may have redeemed themselves. I doubt that's what's happening right now. For all we know, Sony may have just repatented just to keep the ownership to where they can keep getting money and stuff. But if this ends up being actually usable in some form of way, then chances are Sony might have redeemed themselves. I doubt it, but here's hoping that we'll see something in the future about it. And finally, we're going to be talking about the price and the release date for the PS5. Something that everyone has been clamoring for so long since the beginning of this year. They've been dying for this price range. And ever since the reveal for the system, I'm still surprised that they didn't reveal the price and the release date. You know, that's just weird for me. They showed off the system and everything like that. They talked about the power and performance, but they hadn't shown the price and the release date until now, which is literally 2 months away until it comes out. Actually, less than 2 months when you think about it. So, the price range for both the standard version and the digital version. The standard version will be sellable at $499, $500. And for the digital version, it is going to be $399, $400. Which makes sense, you know, cut $100 from the Blu-ray disc drive, and it just makes sense. So, and the cool thing is that regardless of the two systems, aside from the readable disc drive, there is no major difference between the two systems. They're both basically the same in terms of storage, power output, so on and so forth. It's just one is strictly digital only, and one will allow you to play physical games on it. So that makes sense, and I'm glad that that's the case. Unlike with Microsoft's Series systems, I was still confused whenever the Xbox Series S came out. Not the X, the S. And while the price has finally been revealed, the release date has also been revealed for most countries like the US, Japan, UK, and Australia. They will be getting the system at November 13th, while everywhere else will be having it on November 19th. And so that's good to know that it is coming out and everything like that. But I'm more worried about the pre-order thing. I'm confused by the pre-orders. So, Sony has stated that pre-orders are not up yet there are already so many outlets and stores that are already making the option to pre-order the system available. So in other words, while technically no one knows how many systems are going to get in within the first shipment, so on and so forth, they're already getting pre-orders up. So in other words, if you were to go right now and get it pre-ordered, chances are you're going to be waiting until literally 2021, probably, more than likely. And if you're looking to get it by December for Christmas, don't count on it. I'm sorry to tell you this, but don't count on it. Because I guarantee you one of two things is going to happen. One, you're going to go into the store, go into the line to pick up the PS5 system thinking, oh, they'll have plenty on the shelf. You go in there, there's none on the shelf, you ask the clerk, he tells you that they're completely sold out. And in other words, since you didn't pre-order yours, it's not going to be available, obviously. And what's going to be even worse is that scalpers will more than likely try to get as many as they can and sell them for like an extra $300-$500, I bet. I would not doubt it in my mind if that was practically part of the agenda that most scalpers would do. They did this for the PS4, they did this for the Switch, they did this for every console so far, including the NES and SNES ones. So I would not be surprised if scalpers would try to get like 2 or 3 extra systems of the PS5 and then sell them for extra profit. So if you're in the dire need of getting a PS5, please be patient, okay? Do not fall for this trap of paying an extra $300-$500. They will restock. Keep in mind, the system just had come out. They will restock eventually. It's just during this pandemic time, they couldn't make as many, which makes perfect sense, and I don't blame Sony for it. Everyone has felt the heat from it, and so it makes sense why they wouldn't have enough of it right off the bat. They will have more. Yes, most of us will have to wait for a year or so, but we will get a PS5 in some form of way. Now, with that being said, what do I think about it, and do I plan on getting it? For the PS5, I think it's looking pretty good. I think the future for the PS5 is pretty bright right now. Even though we still don't have a clear clarification about true backwards compatibility, being that of PS1, 2, and 3, it's nice to know that now the PS4 will more than likely, so long developers aren't being retarded about this, where every game for the PS4 will be backwards compatible for the PS5. At least for the most part, the main titles we want to have backwards compatible for the PS5. So hopefully, most of my games that I have on my PlayStation 4 should be backwards compatible for the PS5, which if that's the case, that would be awesome. You know, that's good to know that the PS4 will be at least 99% fully backwards compatible. So I'm happy about that. Even though that's a little bit weird saying that, I'm still happy that I get to play most of my favorite games onto the PS4, which is really good to have. Hopefully they'll actually make a confirmed announcement. So far right now it's just rumored. So really there's no clear clarification if they are or not. But hopefully they'll make some form of announcement in regards to that, and hopefully we'll get a detail. Again, if we have to rebuy them, I personally don't mind. I just want them all available, not just like handpick certain ones and then stop out of nowhere. No, I want them all available right off the bat. That may be a little bit much to do, but here's the thing. Microsoft has already done this so far with their libraries. Why can't Sony? Makes perfect sense to me, don't you agree? As for me, I'm just gonna wait an extra year. I mean, like I said before, getting the system in terms of pre-orders is gonna be difficult from the way Sony talks, from the way it sounds from people who are just right now pre-ordering it. It sounds like people are gonna be waiting for a long while before they even remotely get their system. So, to get it day one is gonna be impossible. To get it before the end of the year, it's going to be impossible. And if you're lucky enough to get it within the first 6 months of next year, then that's great news for you guys. You know, I'll be happy for you. But I think I'm going to wait until next November, or December for that matter, before I get my PS5. Because quite frankly, you know, there'll be times that I think it's probably worth the wait. Keep in mind, Demon's Souls has not got a release date yet at the moment. Most of the games that are going to be coming out won't be released until next year, literally. And then games like Final Fantasy 16, for that matter, has not got an official release date yet. So chances are, some games are going to still be coming out. It's just going to be a long while. So I think for me, it's worth the wait. For a PS5, it's not a desirable need to get it right now. As for the games that are coming out for that system on month 1, they're not really worth it to get, in my personal opinion. I know there's a lot of people who are excited for the new Spider-Man game, and there are many others and stuff like that, but for me, it hasn't really piqued my interest at the moment, so I'm just going to wait for the system, and in my personal opinion, I would suggest other people to wait as well. It's not going to kill you just to wait a year to get a new system. Keep in mind, when this system first comes out, there's not going to be a huge lineup of games. Yes, you can play your PlayStation 4 games onto the system, but there's not like a major requirement need to have the system in terms of new releases yet at this moment in time. Yes, there will be games coming out, but it won't be for a while. But that's my opinion. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say about the PS5 event. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about the PlayStation 5 so far? What have you thought about it? Are you happy about the price? Are you glad about the release date? Have you already got yourself a pre-order? And if so, how early were you to get the pre-order? Chances are you're probably one of the few people who have got it just now. So if that's the case, good luck waiting. Like I said, I'm just going to wait until next year. But anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, this is BlackCross signing off. Take care, guys.